Oscar Piastri's disastrous weekend in Baku has left fans and analysts alike wondering what the rest of 2025 will look like. Even though Lando Norris failed to fully capitalize on his teammates' mistakes, the self-confidence of the young Aussie seems to have taken a major hit. Amateur errors in both qualifying and the race left him with no points, while Max Verstappen quietly crept back into the championship picture with his second consecutive win. The big question now is Piastri beginning to crack under pressure, and if so, can either Norris or Verstappen seize the opportunity? The Baku Grand Prix was already shaping up to be one of the wildest weekends of the season, but the cherry on top was Piastri's lap 1 crash. After a jump start earned him a 5-second penalty and a poor launch dropped him to the back within just a few corners, disaster struck. Approaching turn 5, Piastri misjudged the dirty air from the cars ahead, crashing in a highly unusual manner. His disappointment was clear in his post-race comments, and it's safe to say this wasn't how he imagined things would go starting from. What made matters worse was that Norris, while not spectacular, at least managed to bring home points, proving once again that the Brit has a steadier hand under pressure, even if his killer instinct isn't always there. Reflecting on the crash, Piastri admitted, "The crash was certainly not my finest moment. I just anticipated the start too much. A silly, simple error really. With the crash, I just didn't anticipate the dirty air the way I should have. I clearly went into the corner way too hot. The grip level was low, but I should have known that. I'm not blaming anything else, it was just poor judgment on my part." That's obviously disappointing. Not only did this incident cost him valuable points, but it also ended his streak of 42 consecutive top 10 finishes. Meanwhile, Norris had problems of his own. A slow 4-second pit stop derailed his strategy, leaving him stuck in P8. He eventually clawed back to P7, finishing exactly where he started. That meant Norris only cut the championship gap by 6 points when he could have been within striking distance of Piastri heading into Singapore. Piastri should count himself lucky that Norris still hasn't shown the ruthless edge of a true championship contender. But Verstappen, that's a different story. The Dutchman stormed to his second straight win, and while Piastri still holds a 69-point lead, momentum is clearly shifting. Just one more weekend like this, and suddenly the championship fight could be alive again. The big takeaway from Baku was simple: Red Bull has rediscovered raw pace. Verstappen's feedback combined with the influence of Laurent Mekies has unlocked improvements that make the RB21 a genuine threat again. With 7 races and 3 sprint events still to go, Verstappen could yet become a thorn in McLaren's side. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella defended Piastri, insisting that weekends like this were always expected. A one-off race can happen. Oscar has been the most solid driver of the 2025 campaign so far. These are the moments you learn the most from. But while Stella's comments are designed to ease pressure, the reality is stark. McLaren needed precision in Baku, and both drivers fell short. What makes it stranger is that Piastri struggled at a track where he won his second career race just last year. If he doesn't bounce back immediately in Singapore, the risk of a downward spiral grows. Adding to McLaren's headaches is Verstappen's resurgence. Yuki Tsunoda's P6 finish, the best ever result for Red Bull Racing Bulls, proved that Red Bull machinery is working across the board. Yes, Baku's layout favored their car, but nobody knows exactly how much progress they've really made. And while Piastri won't carry his 5-second jumpstart penalty into Singapore thanks to rule changes, that reprieve does nothing to ease the growing pressure from Verstappen and Ferrari, both of whom are expected to be strong in Singapore and Las Vegas. Stella summed it up best: Red Bull is a team you cannot write off at any cost. Verstappen is absolutely back in the championship fight. After 2 consecutive wins, one where the championship leader scored nothing and the other McLaren only managed 7th, the momentum is on their side. So is Verstappen really back? Stella answered with a firm capitalized yes. He's Max Verstappen, a 4-time world champion in a fast car. There will be races where McLaren has no competitive advantage, and if Ferrari can't capitalize, Max will. And if these wins come when one McLaren is out and the other is stuck in the lower top 10, that changes everything. This raises an uncomfortable question about McLaren's team orders earlier in the year. Remember the controversial Monza swap? If the championship ends with just a handful of points separating drivers, will that decision come back to haunt them? The truth is, Piastri has shown cracks under pressure. Verstappen meanwhile smells blood in the water and is preparing for a full-on manhunt in the final stretch of. With 7 races and 3 sprints left, there's plenty of time for the tables to turn. Verstappen himself admitted the recent results were track-specific. The last 2 weekends were really positive for us, but both were low downforce tracks. We'll see how we perform at high downforce circuits. For now, we're just enjoying the moment. This just shows how quickly fortunes can change in Formula 1. After Zandvoort, many had already crowned Piastri the 2025 champion. Now, just 2 races later, Verstappen has stormed back into contention. For the sake of the drama, many fans are hoping for a miraculous Verstappen comeback. So what do you think? Did Baku expose Piastri's weaknesses? And could this disastrous weekend spark a turning point in the championship? Let me know in the comments below, and once you've done that, make sure to click the video on your screen right now. But here's where the debate really heats up, because while Aston Martin's name keeps floating around in whispers, the question isn't just who they want, it's whether they even have the machinery to attract a driver like Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. Let's be honest, Aston has promised big things before, and yet every year, they seem to fall just short of being true contender. So why would either of McLaren's golden boys even think about leaving a car that's consistently fighting for wins to jump into a project that's still searching for its identity? The answer might not be performance alone, it could be about legacy. For drivers like Norris, who's yet to secure that elusive first world title, the temptation of leading a historic brand like Aston Martin back to glory might be too powerful to ignore. Think about it, becoming the man who drags Aston to their first championship in the modern era would cement his name in the history books forever. That's a narrative money can't buy, and Lawrence Stroll knows it. He's desperate for star power to transform Aston from a midfield struggler into a global F1 powerhouse. But this gamble works both ways, because if Norris or Piastri jumped ship too early and Aston failed to deliver, their careers could stall just as quickly. Look at Fernando Alonso's career path: brilliant drives, bold moves, but sometimes into the wrong cars at the wrong time. Do Norris or Piastri really want to risk repeating that story, especially now when McLaren is giving them the best chance in over a decade to fight at the very front? And let's not forget the Verstappen factor. If Max decides to leave Red Bull after 2025, Aston Martin could suddenly look a whole lot more attractive. Imagine the pull of partnering a global superstar, or even replacing him as Red Bull's successor team. That's the kind of shakeup that could flip the entire driver market on its head. So right now, Aston Martin isn't just hunting for speed on track. They're hunting for a statement signing, someone who can redefine their future. The only question is, will Norris or Piastri be willing to take that risk? Or will they decide the McLaren project still has unfinished business? And this is where everything comes full circle, because no matter what Aston Martin, McLaren, or even Ferrari do, the entire driver market still revolves around one man, Max Verstappen. His recent wins have reminded the paddock that he's still the benchmark, but behind the scenes, the whispers won't stop. With Verstappen's future uncertain, Norris and Piastri weighing risks, and Aston Martin hunting for their star, one thing is clear: the 2026 season might not just bring new cars but a completely new era of Formula 1.